Hello all. I give you all a warm welcome to our first IIIF regional meeting in Croatia, with special thanks to the conference organizers for giving us this opportunity to discuss live about this topic at this year's annual conference. Our session will be up to 90 minutes. And all panel participants will present their views and experience of IIIF framework, having in mind future scenarios for broader implementation of IIIF tools and concepts throughout heterogeneous scientific and cultural heritage projects in Croatia and abroad. I will share my screen and lead through all the panel participants' presentations. So please just give me 1 second. All panelists who have joined me today can be overall presented as regional leaders in digital transformation of heritage institutions in Croatia. Through their practice, they promote sustainable approaches to building an interoperable community within the umbrella of digital humanities and strongly support the horizontal awareness and expansion in using digital tools and knowledge throughout GLAM and leaning communities. So Koraljka Kuzma-Šlogar, who is a head of archive at the Institute of Ethnology and Folklore Research, and she's our national coordinator for the DARIAH network for the past 6 years, should have be a member of this discussion today, but unfortunately, in the last 5 minutes, she had some personal things coming on, so she couldn't meet us. But here is Vlatka Lemić. She's a head of the University Archive in Zagreb, current president of ICARUS organization, and since recently Europeana advisory board member. Christian Crnković, you can say hello, is a CEO of Archiv, a company based in Koprivnica, specialized in scanning services and building of custom digital repositories in Indigo web platform. Marijana Tomić, hi Marijana, is associate professor at the Department of Information Sciences and head of the Center for Research in Glagolitism at the University of Zadar. Benedikt Perak, hi Benedikt, hi Ben, is research assistant professor at the Department of Cultural Studies at the University of Rijeka. And then we follow to Eva Cetinic, who is a postdoctoral researcher affiliated to Durham University at UK and Rudjer Boskovic Institute in Zagreb. Goran Zlodi is associate professor at the Department of Information and Communication Sciences, based at the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at the University of Zagreb. And last but not least, Zeljko Trbusic is an archivist at the Croatian Academy of Sciences and Arts. So welcome all. As Koraljka couldn't give us a warm welcome in front of DARIAH network here in Croatia, I will just go through a couple of basic information about this huge network that was established as a European Research Infrastructure Consortium with 15 founding members, including Croatia, in 2014. Nowadays, it's a 20 full member countries network with cooperative partners in 8 non-member countries. Main areas of activities are aiming to ensure the humanities researcher humanities research are able to assess the impact of technology on their work in an informed manner. They ought to access the data, tools, service, knowledge, and networks that they need seamlessly and in contextually rich virtual and human environments, produce excellent digitally enabled scholarship that is reusable, visible, and sustainable. So this is a network of institutions that are members of this network in Croatia, and you can follow our web portal with all the events and upcoming events and projects. So now I give microphone to Vlatka Lemić. Please, Vlatka.
Okay, thank you, Irena, and thank you for organizing this. So it will be just a few introductory words from my side, since I think that all of you have much more to say concretely about this. So I came from GLAM environment, from archives correctly, but also here I will say a few words. I didn't make a special introduction to ICARUS association, to ICARUS community, but majority of you already know ICARUS is international association founded in 2008 in Vienna. Today it gathers around 200 institutions from all around the world, but it's not just archives, although it have archives in its name, but it's also museums, libraries, research center, faculties. And I just mentioned this because it was I think in this scale, first time that interdisciplinarity was put in the practice. Then 13 or 14 years ago, to make such interdisciplinary approach, it was a pioneering idea. Today, for example, it is normal. It's not something unusual to go cross-discipline work. But in these days, so we were like pioneers in introducing new technologies in archives and heritage institutions. And this is why ICARUS work is orientated toward implementation in technology. So we develop digital platforms. In new times, ICARUS is one of the founders of Time Machine project, Time Machine initiative. IIIF is also part of Time Machine community. So you see, we are all cross-connected through this environment. So this is how we got here. So from the perspective of introducing technologies like IIIF in GLAM institution work, we have to say that we need science, we need technicians, we need somebody to help us here, since especially archives are still in the beginning. I used for this presentation materials that were presented from my colleague Wim van Dongen, who I think now also work for IIIF Consortium. He had the presentation in ICARUS Croatia Days 2 years ago, and he made these materials about using of IIIF in archives. And unfortunately then, as well as now, we are in the beginning. So it's concretely, you can find examples of using or this standard in archives in university archives and libraries in America. This is where you can find most example here. In Europe is not such widespread. We thought that Europeana framework will be something to push archives toward using more this standard, because as you know, Europeana gathers archives, library and museum collections. So archives are here also at the end of this line. But so far for European archives, this is probably currently the most fostering thing to include them to use this technology. I will just say a few more words from archives perspective. Archives basically and in majority use EAD-XML standard for providing online access to materials. And basically in practice, they just link this metadata to digital objects. And so these initiatives and these projects that use EAF try to work on create this link and to embed this standard in those projects and portals who use this technology. Also, you will find in this sense that in EAF, they start, I think in 2018, Archives Community Group, where you can find more information about using this technology in archives, also interesting institution, interesting professionals, and some materials you can find here. So basically, I just can say that we are in the beginning. We need to foster implementation of this technology in archival world. As I said, you can find more example in these materials in this presentation of Wim. I put here a link that you can, it's available, you can use it. We also publish this material in magazine Archivi in Croatian. Wim also help us present it here, and basically we are also through ICARUS network and through time machine activities, we are in close connection to try to foster and to present this technology in the framework of our activities. So this is from me. I hope enough, Irena.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for this introductory, I mean, and a broader perspective of an precarious archivist for the past 30 years yourself. But please let me know, not let me know, but let me say a couple of introductory words from myself to push towards our open discussion. Somewhat of what I'm going to say is my personal perspective in the topic, but I want to outline our regional context. So discussion about the IIIF perspectives in Croatia must be put in line with a beforehand multi-year efforts in conducting projects that aim to digitally transform our society. One of the specific goals was to organize stable ICT systems and of preserving and presenting digitized cultural heritage objects. Some examples of stable repositories and interoperable infrastructure are therefore established by for example, National and University Library of Croatia, Museum of Arts and Crafts in Zagreb, Srce, who is a university computing center here in Zagreb, and for example, Scientific Library of the Institute of Art of Rudjer Boskovic. So these are few examples of this type of interoperable platforms. So these are only few to mention that have rooted the institutional policies towards a process of connecting growth and supporting upcoming interoperable communities. And therefore, we should be optimistic, but very careful with further assumptions. The fact is that in recent decades, a lot of effort has been made, as I said, in terms of digital transformation and digital literacy at various levels, especially in scope of digitizing significant collections of national value. But it seems that there is a lot to be done in assuring that the future sustainable and continuous digitization can be provided to do the digitizing projects of significant corpora of artistic and cultural heritage. Also, as the various digital objects are yet widespread as open access sources, the truth is that we are yet in urgent and real need for new approaches in dealing with the so-called digital abundance. Having in mind this objective, one of the real limitations for further development of IIIF community and standards in Croatia is the insufficient awareness of the global spread of IIIF that is advocated today by leading communities, as Vlatka yet mentioned, platforms and consortiums such as Europeana, Time Machine, DARIAH Network, etc. It is also important to say that Croatia is yet in the middle of national projects called e-Kultura, aiming to secure further development and integration of web platform infrastructures that support digital and digitization projects conducted in broad and heterogeneous cultural heritage institutions. This project is led under the scope of EU policies and financially supported with 5.6 million euros under the operational program Competitiveness and Cohesion of European Union. And one of the main objectives is to establish centralized aggregating a platform for all cultural heritage content providers that are traditionally represented by the few institutional pillars. I have already mentioned Museum of Arts and Crafts and Croatian National and University Library in Zagreb, also Croatian National State Archives and Croatian National Broadcasting Service. But as far as I know, the platform will include only some of the basic elements of IIIF framework. So this overall investment in digitization of cultural heritage should be in line with the current global approaches of rethinking concepts of digital transformation and needs that are advocated bottom up and response to wider society. We need to overcome the concept of static digitization projects that end up as singular virtual exhibition or as a silos of open access but non-interoperable repository of documents and connected metadata. Given the fact that we are yet in the process of raising awareness and advocating further implementation of upcoming technologies and infrastructures such as globally accepted IIIF, we should also rethink the approaches and flexible modules of educational programs in this field. Open discussion like this one today are very important and remind us that we are now in a position to foster new tools and approaches that shift our perspective towards the digital abundance that we have inherited. And just to say that my personal and professional interest in this discussion is to have opportunity to actively participate in these overlapping processes. I therefore allow myself to the free imagination of possible scenarios in which the high quality projects that we have worked very hard on over the past few decades will truly be transformed into the open access knowledge corpuses that refer to the critical questions posed by the modern society. It is an open question. Are we prepared for all the complex process that needs to be undertaken in the near future? So this as I said, just some brief introductory thoughts, and I would now like to give floor to our to other panel participants. So Christian, I will give the floor to you, but just for first, I wish to ask, as CEO of Archiv, a company that is specialized in development of ICT system programming and providing digitization support, you have in recent years witnessed the process of establishing several large institutional museums and scientific repositories in Croatia. These platforms have partially adopted somewhat of IIIF framework, and based on this huge experience, can you anticipate future strengths and limitations in further development of a IIIF community in Croatia? Please.
Yes, thank you, Irena. So maybe it is better to go on the next slide. So we will return to the first one. So first of all, I would like to mention some limitations, and after that, I will talk about the strength. So the main limitations are definitely lack of awareness about the IIIF norms. So especially for the institutions that still doesn't have a systematic approach and some kind of transforming their legacy database system to the new level, especially in a way that they need to do a lot more with the semantics, because traditional relational metadata systems are not enough to fulfill all of the requirements that today users and tools as well will be enough. So what me as a CEO of the company that is coping with the development of the platform bothers a lot is financial underestimate of importance of these integrations. So there is a lot of examples that institutions simply doesn't planning in their budget, or the budgets are very short for the real next step that we should step into. And individual enthusiasm that has been shown in the later years lead us to the point that some of the institutions, thanks to the enthusiasm of the few persons, has really good metadata model and the newly adopted standards in their institutions. The last things is actually unclear role of Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Science, especially in a way if we talk about budgeting and preparation of the projects that that should lead to the next level of the technology. But on the other hand, we have a really good example of these 30 institutions that I can mention, and that was mentioned on the first slide. If please, if you go to the first slide, so you can take a look about different type of institutions. For example, Croatian National and University Library. Some special libraries as Croatian Academy of Science and Arts, Slovenia. So there are some clients on this list that use Indigo platform. And as you may know, we developed this platform for 50 years. So we have quite a lot of experience with the GLAM sector. As well with the technology that we're talking about. So what I would like to combine is semantics and IIIF standards, because I think those technologies are crucial in the year in front of us that will result in a real next step. So if you go back to the next, yes. So we'll be witnessing the development of real digital humanities. But we notice also that the institutions are thriving and the community are trying to develop various software implementations because of a transformation of traditional relational databases to the semantic level. What is very good in this IIIF standards is protocol flexibility, promising future regarding extending the existing standard, and of course, what is very important, that this standard is adopted amongst the top universities. And of course, these universities are very active in further development. So next slide, please. So what can we expect? What will happen with these technologies? So I can say that integration is still in its infancy. So we have these 30 institutions that I mentioned, but these systems are pretty much locally developed, and we expect to open up all these databases with all evidence that you mentioned, Irena, before, and clear statement about the open access and the result of the scientific research. So what we noticed is that we still have an example when some of the scientific research or result of the scientific research we can read about in articles. And with the IIIF standards, we can also try and get some hands-on on the result of the scientific research. And I think that's a huge benefit for the community. So what is very important is architecting a consortial system in digital humanities. So there is no a single institution that can bring all of the important roles when working on such a huge project. So assembling of specialized team for system development and supervision is of crucial importance. Doesn't matter from which institutions the experts come. Significant increase in data volumes, which are tractable only through usage of distributed parallel system and not in single isolated databases. As I mentioned, so at the moment we have pretty much isolated databases, but in the near future we expect to open up all of these data that institutions are working very hard to do a lot of manual job that has to be done before opening up their databases. So, and the next, accelerated growth of software development tools. As I CEO, my experience is that we need to invest a lot of time and effort, and of course the money, when developing and integrating good tools and utilities that top universities develop in their laboratories to bring this technology on the in hand of the experts in local institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I can now conclude that with these technologies, we will start true interoperability and reusability of the results in our database.
I really agree. I mean, I really agree with many things that you've stated here through your introduction. And I agree that it's in somewhat our conclusion to this upcoming discussion in one matter. So, but the things that you mentioned here are very good intro to our next panelist, Marijana Tomić, Professor Tomić, because the concept of interoperability in modern science is the basis for methodological and interdisciplinary approach. And it's a very basis for research in the field of cultural heritage. So Marijana, please, which segments of IIIF technologies you consider indispensable for implementation and development, having in mind your previous experience in, for example, digitization projects of old glagolitic documents and usage of tools for transcription and text analysis? I'm all the time thinking about how all this experience with transforming digital transformation transforms one's researcher's view on the topic in focus. So please, Marijana.
Yes, thank you. This is a very good question, and actually I will start with just a few mentions of our experience, just to follow up with the answer on your question. So I'm coming from the University of Zadar, and it's a Center for Research in Glagolitism and at the same time Department of Information Sciences. So I'm kind of working on two platforms, in Humanities and in Information Sciences, which gives me kind of a good insight in both sides, which I find really important for adapting those standards. Just short mention about Croatian glagolitics, just for if somebody doesn't know what it is. So it is one of three scripts used in the history of Croatia, and a large number of important documents and literature, among which are the oldest written documents in Croatia, are written actually on glagolitic script, although it is not in use nowadays, and there are not lots of people who can read it. Our center is actually only 1 year old, and we have 5 researchers from from different fields, from humanities, and me, which I'm from information sciences and humanities as well. The center actually presents a platform for embedding digital methods and cooperative research framework, and a platform for digital cooperative research in Croatian glagolitism. We are dedicating to promoting digital humanities in theory and in practice, and we are dedicated also to foster the implementation of IIIF and other contemporary digital standards in the research in the humanities, namely glagolitics, but also in the research of other historical script. There is really a lot to be done in that area in the future, but we are eager to make presumptions and to foster its implementation. So far, within our project, we digitized 246 glagolitic manuscripts written on cursive glagolitic script, mostly of local provenance. We cataloged 137 manuscripts by the use of Indigo platform, which was presented in previous by previous panelist Christian Trbusic, who actually made the platform together with all the international standards and conceptual models embedded in the platform itself. Within those manuscripts, we transcribed 50 of them, 9 of which are transcribed within pilot project of crowdsourcing glagolitic transcriptions, and the rest was transcribed as in scholarly projects by philologists, experts in the area of glagolitics and paleography, as well as experts in language and history studies. Can we go to the second slide, please? Well, the result is a catalog with highly structured and authorized, trustful metadata on glagolitic manuscripts, which is connected with the digital reproductions of manuscripts. You can see part of the platform. Digital reproductions are of high quality, and Indigo system in use guarantee IIIF protocols to be used. We are focused on enrichment of data done by scholars and by public in future parts of the project. The particular focus is on using highly structured bibliographic data, especially by the use of controlled vocabularies in humanities research for visualizations, for data mining, and other and by using other tools. We are also dedicated to research in humanities, in transcription and analyzing of the glagolitic text by text analyzing, which we are planning in various methods, including text encoding, text mining, and artificial intelligence when possible. The main goal is to create a seamlessly linked digital research environment for working with glagolitic heritage, and to act as a service for researchers in humanities to learn and to adopt digital methods and digital tools, because we think that we have to promote also presentation and learning, teaching humanities researchers how to use and what prosperities those methods will give them. We are trying to enable macro as well as micro approach, meaning studying data as well as in-depth study of a single documents. Can we pass to, okay, thank you. Well, about IIIF, I choose to talk about our fragmentology research, which we started within our center. Glagolitic manuscripts and its fragments are scattered throughout the world. We can find fragments actually in all of the countries almost in the world. So to research fragments means to fill in the gaps in knowledge of Croatian glagolitics, in Croatian literature, script, and history. To do today, fragmentology is not really possible anymore without implementation of digital tools based on IIIF technology. So IIIF technology and its implementation is in the center of our project. To do fragmentology research, our scholars need a viewer, which we can provide through Mirador and our other viewers to allow zooming of fragment images. They need to compare objects across collections, and IIIF can give a great platform to do it also, to do sample matching and to find those fragments that belong to the same codicological units. They need to sequence the pictures of fragments when they find fragments that could be from the same units, and they really need interoperability, because those fragments are scattered throughout really lots of institutions. For that, we find that of highest importance, and for that we see the potentials of using IIIF image and presentation APIs. We are putting the focus on metadata enriched by standardized scholarly in-depth description also, but mostly we see the promotion of IIIF technology as our focus. So can we see the other? Thank you. Well, in the sense of IIIF, we are planning and using, actually, you can see it on this little picture, but you can see maybe that we are using Mirador to view, to try to compare fragments that seems to be written by the same hand, although some of these are not, and we showed that they are similar but not written by the same hand. So we are also planning to link scholarly transcriptions and catalog records, and about those transcriptions we find Transcribus to use it as a good proxy, because we are using Transcribus for our transcriptions. Also, we are planning to build in concordances tools to compare fragments and glossary building and geographic annotations, which are also based on some APIs used on the basis of IIIF technology. So, just to conclude, the benefits are high interoperability, which we need, especially when we talk about reunited fragments into the codicological units. We see the benefits in linking resourcing, in comparison of fragments, and that which enables that reunification. In-depth research of texts, which is of high importance, and using of artificial intelligence in transcriptions, although we have to bear in mind that handwritten text recognition, although we are also playing with it and using some models to train some softwares, it is not actually at this moment useful when we are talking about cursive glagolitic script. So to conclude, we want to transform those silos of non-operable content to smart researchable content to allow interpretation of globalistic heritage.
Thank you, Marijana. I think that you really given us evidence of how IIIF all levels of IIIF framework really assures a very sufficient methodological context through which you conduct your project. So, and I think Benedikt, as our second panelist, has a very beautiful examples of concepts that he's, let's say, playing with. So Benedikt, one of the more recent projects you are developing is Emotsnet. Maybe you could share us all the link through the chat box. So roughly speaking, it is a platform that is structured to provide corpus-based graph analysis and representation of the synthetic semantic network patterns of emotion expression in public, political discourse, and popular culture. So in what ways would it be possible to further develop platforms like your Emotsnet with IIIF within IIIF framework, please? Benedikt, we don't hear you. Please.
Sorry for that. Yes, now you hear me. So
Okay.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for mentioning this project, which is actually still in infancy, I would say, but it has the some kind of envisages what Christian spoke about, the need for interoperability, this connections between concepts, graph-based structure. So from the vantage point of textual-based digital scholarship, where I come from as a philologist, the IIIF standards enable several points of incursion of image-based representation into text and vice versa. So I will share my thoughts where this multimodal merger could be feasible in the horizon of Croatian digital humanities projects that I've seen, actually. So first, from image to text, let's start with some kind of hierarchical approach. The first, level one, just text digitalized as image. That would be the entry level, I guess, and preferably in high resolution. So IIIF opens possibilities of enriched representation of books, posters, incunabulas, etc. That can be digitalized as image, and that's something that a lot of institutions are actually still in their infancy, I would say, to get to this level. So basically, yeah, that's an effort also not to be dismantled. So the second would be image to text level one. Text, no, just go back. Yeah, or yes, sorry. This is the image to text level one, where text is processed using OCR. So the books can be scanned and processed with optical character readers. So the example includes projects like Glagoljica, mentioned here by Marijana Tomić, great project. And that alone enables one to build text search procedures using annotation search API from IIIF that take text as input, but returns image representation of text portion in the digital document. As I mentioned, the problem is a lot of digitalized text are not OCR'd. And although there's a rich metadata structure sometimes on our great repositories, also done by Christian, there is actually no reference in the text itself on the image. So nor there is a wholesome representation of the textual content that can be somehow resolved by implementing OCR and storing the data in a IIIF annotation form, I guess. So next, please, the next slide. And actually that takes us to further consolidation of what we can do from the text side. Not only can we symbolize and store text in an image encoding, but also this text references the image and visual objects of various sorts in various databases. But analytically, we could talk about various linguistic structures as a means of referencing the visual. First, we have this text to image level 1 with words and lexical concepts as prompt for visual cues and representation. So we can imagine a thing like a global Google search image representation, but applied to the local set of curated IIIF image repositories that already have searchable metadata or some textual content. So all these repositories like DSB, Digitalne zbirke, Glagoljica, etc. But with words taking us to the image portion of this text or giving us the solution where we can actually see these concepts where they are represented. And then the next slide, so text to image level 2, we can envisage text enrichment tools used for advanced search or reference. And here's actually where I think my project with this Emotsnet platform, or Congressnet as we call it, has some kind of relevance. As a part of this project, we have developed a corpus-based graph analytic tool that could harness such an infrastructure and enable the further semantic enrichment with features such as concept similarity search or synonyms, antonym-based search, topic modeling, polysemic resolution, search for content tagged with certain sentiment value or emotional value. So let's say I want a positive representation of a pride. So maybe I'll get, I don't know, Croatian soccer team. I mean, in a few years, I'm saying. Or a negative representation of pride with some kind of political person, you know, that could be also nowadays. So this could be some possibilities, even from this word level. So on the next slide, I would say on a more complex linguistic structures, we could think of text, whether it's ORCR, manually transcribed or existing otherwise in a digitalized form, that could be associated with images through IIIF resources. So possible example that comes to mind is this distant reading project that I've been involved. It's a kind of cost project for developing resources, methods necessary to use computational methods of analysis for large collection of literary text in 10+ European languages. And it has already produced a multilingual European literary text collection called LTC that will ultimately contain something around 2,500 full text novels in at least, as I said, 10 different languages from 1850 to 1920s, permitting to test methods and compare results across national traditions. So Croatian partners have also contributed to this project with the desired list of books to be tagged according to the TIA schema. And most of these texts have a corresponding documents already scanned or digitalized. So that could be one of use. So, but the other thing that I want to mention is this advanced NLP text processing options could be applied on text with search on lemma, search on syntactic structures, search on named entities, representation of geo entities on maps. So we could find in a text all the towns or places that already have their images that, you know, it's a large an explosion of data. Or you can have assignment of sentiment values or structures within text. So this level 3 could be further integrated with objects already cataloged in digital archives or accessible reference to related artifacts. Or maybe to go even beyond that on some level 4 future sequence, the more complex linguistic structures, paragraphs or text could be represented in the visual narrative using sequential search and dynamic image merging, like string of images woven into some kind of video representation. So that's kind of how I see the path in forward, and I hope these thoughts will stir some meaningful actions and projects that could represent the Croatian cultural resources in a multimodal manner, as well as to prepare its informational scene for the fourth technological revolution that we are facing, actually.
I think the last that you mentioned, you've given us really like a broader, like future new imagination of the worlds that we can restructure and rethink as a result of of this type of project. So I think that your presentation leads us very closely to very smoothly to our next panelist, Eva Cetinic. So I have a question for you. Your perspective on IIIF is from the position of a researcher and user of large sets of digitized images in the context of deep machine learning. Deep learning methods gained significant attention in the last few years because they show very advanced performance for various tasks and domains. What are the possibilities of using those methods in the context of our history and cultural heritage? What prerequisites are necessary for applying those types of advanced computational methods? And how does the IIIF framework fit in this practice, Eva?
Okay, hi, thank you for the introduction and for the question. So I will try to answer and give a little bit of my own overview of this situation from someone who's coming from computer science, computer vision kind of perspective, but I have been involved in the area of digital humanities for the last few years. I've attended many workshops and conferences, and I got kind of the impression that that creating a digital collection, a repository, is often considered to be the end goal, right? Something that museums and the libraries, institutions are kind of aiming for, to come to this point where they have their collection digitized, online available, and that's it. But from my perspective, this was actually the starting point. You know, now the fun starts. Now you have the data. Now you can do all kinds of new things, and what is actually possible. This is still an open question, but I think that a lot of people now are coming to this point that they realize, okay, yes, artificial intelligence is something that is being really intensively talked about and popular in a sense, and everybody wants to kind of have a project that involves something related to deep learning. But what are the actual practical and research possibilities? In particular, I think from perspective of Croatian, let's say, digital humanities scene, I think as I also Benedikt mentioned and previous panelists, that perhaps here we're still stuck at this, let's say, step of building a digital collection. I think still many institutions did not come to this point. But also, as we saw from Marijana's presentations, a lot of institutions are already considering advanced methods and considering how they can be used on their digitized collections. So from my perspective, it seems that there are two possible directions. One is basically, let's say, practical, where you can kind of implement advanced search functionalities within your collections, advanced visual search, so that you can kind of search based not on the metadata, but on the image content in terms of extracting, I don't know, or retrieving images that are similar in various aspects based on the content, based on the style, based on some certain details and things like that. But also the other direction would be research oriented, where you kind of build a whole new perspective of what can you do if you quantify some features, if you're able to express them numerically, and you can see how they change over time. You can build different types of visualizations of different relations and things like that. And this opens, of course, the possibility for new knowledge discovery and for a lot of interesting interdisciplinary research. But what is necessary currently to be able to employ those types of advanced methods? Well, I mean, currently you still need to have a certain level of programming skills, a certain level of understanding. But I have witnessed, for instance, let's say 5 years ago, it was quite difficult to set up a neural network and to train it and all these things. You know, it took far more effort than it takes now. Now you have all these types of Python packages and machine learning libraries and so on, in which you can basically upload a pre-trained neural network in 3 lines of code. And I think we're going in that direction of making those advanced computational methods actually much more accessible to a wider audience. And I think also in this context, next slide, please. I think that the IIIF framework is something that we should think about these future steps and think about the emergence of these kinds of tools, because I think in the future there will be many tools which will enable a more easier use of those methods that you can kind of very easily apply to your own collection. But another thing that I think is very important is that for instance, I worked with art data and digitized paintings and things like that. And I used collections that are large, that are online available, such as, I don't know, WikiArt, Web Gallery of Art, and things like that. But I'm not sure, you know, if those collections are really expert level, annotated, structured, validated collections, right? I think they're kind of a big, large online collection with a lot of noise, right? And so if you use this for research purposes, you have to be aware of the noise that is within that. So I think that different types of tools that are already available, this IIIF, image APIs, and things that enable you to kind of collect and get the data really structured and really expert level annotated data easily, is something that can definitely foster the research and also be helpful for researchers in computer vision that are interested in applying their methods on this data. Also, as I already said, so this is one direction. The other direction is that those tools will be more easier to use, or already there is an example tool. It's called image graph, which is it's also still under development, but for instance, it enables you to load an IIIF manuscript, and then kind of through a visual programming language, you build up blocks to employ a deep neural network model to extract the features, to visualize, to make a scatter plot and things like that. So I think this will be, in a sense, the future of the tools, so that those kind of methods will either be integrated in existing collections, or they will be part of those tools. And therefore, I think it's very important to think in advance right now, you know, what is necessary for my collection for me to be able to use a tool that perhaps does not yet exist, but it will exist maybe in a year or two or very soon. Of course, all this will help us to really bridge this cross-domain knowledge gap between you know, people from the humanities, researchers from the humanities, and their kind of reluctance towards using those types of tools. If you have it all easier, and if you have it kind of in a visual or user-friendly way, then of course more people will be using that, and interdisciplinary research will in that way be flourishing, I suppose. And we will also be able to really critically more investigate what is possible and what is not possible. Because, for instance, currently, you know, in the context of computer vision, there is a lot of things going on. I mean, there is a surge of interest in topics that deal with art classification, object detection, and things like that. But many times, you know, art data sets are taken just as another data source, you know, not without expert knowledge, without real understanding, and then the conclusions can sometimes really be naive in terms of, you know, what we can do. So you have these two separate streams. On one side, you know, computer vision scientists working with art data, not coming to maybe very fruitful research conclusions. On the other side, you have art historians, which are not so familiar, or they really don't have anything to do with it or whatever, you know, but they have their own opinion about these things. And I think we're in this phase where we're kind of bridging those gaps, and this is also one opportunity in that direction.
Yes, Eva, thank you for giving us this optimistic, you know, perspective, and for being very straightforward with your conclusions. I mean, really giving us the perspective of a user, and participants of many overlapping communities. So I'm delightful to see what really brings near future, you know, in concepts that you've mentioned. So, but with our two other panelists, let's Goran and Zeljko. Let's get back to some of the basic questions through our discussion. So Goran, please, the IIIF framework, as we have discussed many times, we somewhat collides, but certainly appreciates the standards established by the global GLAM community in recent decades, such as CDOC, CRM, LIDO, LINKed-ART, and other. You, as an educator at a higher education institution and expert in field of digitization, museum information systems, databases, and thesaurus in cultural heritage institutions, can you, from all your diverse expertise and practice, can you outline the possible immediate benefits of long-term constraints implementing IIIF standards in Croatia?
Yes, first of all, when we talk about other standards, I would rather not say that they collide with IIIF, but that they are complement each other. Of course, there are some overlaps given the role of each standards, but as I will illustrate later, I would say that there is a good communication regarding the development and harmonization of standards. I would single out the following standards complementary to IIIF, important for cultural heritage sector. First, LIDO as metadata exchange schema. It is intended for delivering, exposing, sharing, connecting rich metadata from various sources in cultural heritage, and CDOC conceptual reference model as object-oriented ontology aimed at representing cultural heritage information. It provides definitions and formal structure for describing implicit and explicit concepts and relationships used in cultural heritage documentation and domain. And LINKed-ART as an application profile that can be used to describe cultural heritage resources for and prepare them for linked open data environment. It is also based on CDOC CRM and Getty vocabularies, their linked open data instances. So I can give you two examples that illustrate cooperation of standards developing communities and how they work closely together. For example, Robert Sanderson, one of the leading people in LINKed-ART project, and he's also one of the authors of all IIIF APIs. And second example is that at last CDOC conference, a joint meeting of LINKed-ART and LIDO working group was successfully held. So when we talk about IIIF and complementary standards, I can emphasize two things. First, the need for continuous cooperation and development for the sake of interoperability, and already mentioned by many of panelists, raising awareness and education at all levels, from students to cultural heritage professionals. For example, at University of Zagreb, as I am teaching students how they get data from various sources by Sparkle language. Now I'm teaching how they can access image and create digital storytelling, for example, or something based on IIIF standards. I'll get back to your second question. I don't see some long-term constraints, while immediate benefits are obvious. Users can use deep zoom functionalities, etc. But the long-term benefits are more exciting. By implementing IIIF standards, image availability and interoperability can transcend institutional silos. And so image availability is the first prerequisite for any interoperability, especially if you have smart digital image delivery provided by IIIF Image API. After that, by presentation APIs, users, both humans and machines, can perform various analysis. They can compare, annotate images, and so on. When we talk about raising awarenesses and advocating for IIIF standards, I can show you some results of one study about providing subject access to cultural heritage in this is research in Swedish online museums. Please, could you switch to second and once? Okay. So until the advent of IIIF standards and also computer vision technologies, searching of content of visual resources was provided at the metadata level by subject indexing, providing subject index terms such as motifs, persons, places, and so on. We continued to work on one study by Korelka Golub that established functionalities, for example, for online information retrieval systems, for example, browsing by subject access points, searching by subject access points, searching by browser and error teams represented in controlled vocabularies, and auto-completing terms. So we added 3 additional image-related features important to cultural heritage sector. First, it is searching by image-related features by adding criteria to retrieve only results without or with images, search by image orientation, image size, and so on. And searching by content-based image retrieval and computer vision technologies based on deep learning and other methods. For example, by querying by example image, querying by sketch map, query by color map, and so on. And third functionality is are features related to IIIF open standards for enhanced user experience. So deep zoom viewing, comparing, manipulating, and so on. So by adding these features of online services, we wanted to provide a checklist for cultural heritage institutions in which directions they have to develop their search and retrieval services. Because we think that IIIF is one of the most important component of contemporary global information infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you for this intro, let's say, because I think that you could give us some more in wider discussion, some more maybe firsthand experience with your couple of decades associated through many projects with museum sector in implementing and raising awarenesses for many other standards. Yeah, so, but let's hear what Zeljko has to give us through this discussion. Zeljko, you will somehow complement some of Benedikt's point of views, as your research focus is on the information value of digitized text documents, as well as on the ability to automate the conversion of images into encoded text. So what are the possibilities and limitations of automatic transcriptions when creating content? That is certainly advocated with the IIIF content search API and presentation API. Zeljko,
yeah,
are you here? Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me into this panel and for organizing everything. I just want to say that I've heard the other panelist presentation, and I think that maybe I'll take a step back, but in a sense, a step forward in an archival sense, because archivists are often involved in managing trustworthiness of the data, and we want to preserve on the long term the data, the archival data that can be trusted, that can be authentic. So IIIF Search API and Presentation API, they enable the use of transcriptions when users perform their search queries. Of course, this is an option of many other repositories, but it's important to stress that IIIF supports that. And I think this is some of the basic function that should be incorporated in every repository. Of course, when we digitize textual documents, we don't automatically have encoded text that is needed to perform those searches, because, of course, when we digitize, we have just an image of the text, which is great, but it doesn't enable to use some of the advanced modern technologies which Eva mentioned, or some of the functionalities that Benedikt mentioned. So as an archivist, I think that automatic transcription technologies, it is what we call sometimes OCR, sometimes HTR, or handwritten text recognition. I think that those technologies have some limitations and, of course, some advantages. In my opinion, I think that the advantages outweigh the limitations if we have a system that can measure the efficiency of those technologies. So just to briefly stress some of the cons and pros of automatic transcription, one of the disadvantages is that it is almost never 100% accurate. It is something we have to deal with. It is something that almost every transcription technology has. And I think that we can say that even manually transcribed documents, we cannot also be 100% sure that the transcriber or the group of transcribers have transcribed the text 100% correctly. So we need some measuring tools to predict the outcome of the transcription. Of course, when we implement transcription and text recognition technologies, we need to have some additional resources, which is a disadvantage. But I think that on the long run, it enables to, let's say, make shortcuts in some ways that could save resources in 10 or 20 years from now. And of course, which is probably one of the most dangerous disadvantages, that using text recognition technology in an improper way can lead to information loss, because even today, some of the new way of digitizing, it presumes that the originals can be destroyed, because the paper originals can be destroyed. So we have to have a trustworthy way to manage the digitized data, so we know that no information or as little as possible is lost. Please, next slide. So that was about disadvantages, and some of the advantages of automatically created transcriptions is that they are definitely faster and cheaper than manual transcription, especially when we are dealing with millions of pages. We cannot expect that even a big group of crowdsourced transcribers will manage to transcribe that much data. And 1 million pages is not much for even a small archive. The other advantage is that it creates word-level boundaries, which is useful for some of the specific responses that IIIF Search API has. And of course, it produces encoded text, which enables to use text mining and text analytic technologies, the incorporation of artificial intelligence into the bigger picture. And of course, we have, by transcribing the text, we have every possibility as we would have with the born digital material. I just want to say in conclusion that trustworthiness is something that is critical for the future of archival science and for the future of, I think, digital repositories, because we must have means to tell the users that the information they have found can be trusted, and that it can be how to say that it can be that they can make their work trusted by other parties because they have used the materials that are correct and that are trusted. Mm-hmm. We can achieve that by measuring accuracy of automatically transcribed text, because by measuring accuracy, we create evidence which is necessary to enhance the trustworthiness of our materials. And by measuring accuracy, we can create quantitative evidence, which of course is somehow limiting because quantitative analysis cannot explain every nuances of archival data. But I think it's a good start to have the transcription technologies to boost them in a way so that people use them and that they trust them. And of course, that feeds back to the users by retrieval of documents and information. As an example is the IIIF search and presentation APIs that, as I said, can enable users to perform their search queries and to get the data they want to. And if they have some evidence that the data they have received has been measured and that they haven't missed anything, because one word or one letter, if it's transcribed incorrectly, can lead to information loss. And to give them the evidence in percentages and in scores, they can trust that repository and that in a way they can enhance their research.
Of course. Thank you, Zeljko. Not only to be part of this panel, but you're really advocating this topic, especially like niche topic throughout all your practices, and you've presented this throughout many conferences. So as we have something like 12 minutes left, thank you for the first round of these questions. But I have, I'm not sure if there's one in a chat box or something, Glenn, maybe you could help us now. I have 3 more questions, but maybe I can sum it up together. So I think that we in our previous discussions also, we agreed that the lack of flexible educational programs is a bit of a problem, let's say, for and that's why we have a lower awareness and limited availability of tools and methods promoted from the IIIF umbrella of this framework. So I think that it's very, I mean, we have to give some kind of a first-hand correction to this, you know, not only to ensure the education throughout producing some projects like to really get to give people the community first-hand chance to be part of this rethinking of IIIF concepts, but also it's really a case that some of the project-based platforms and repositories in Croatia really face the basic problems and limitations regarding the establishment of a sustainable sustainability and stable infrastructure. So we have witnessed, I've only shared one slide with the e-Kultura, which is now at the moment of production, let's say, but we have had this type of project 10 years ago, and the whole platform is completely, I mean, it didn't develop any further. You know, we had 10 years of let's say some kind of a gap of in this field. And the other thing that I wanted to stress out, that while e-Kultura is now in production with significant money, supported with significant financial support of European Union, I'm a bit disappointed to hear that it will just integrate some basic IIIF standards. So maybe Christian, can I ask you for a comment on this? I mean, you've been in position to open.
So as I said, I'm 15 years developing this platform that I mentioned, Indigo. And a lot of pillar institutions in Croatia use this platform as some kind of backbone of their digital infrastructure for bringing on the light all of these legacy databases that they have in their institutions. So you mentioned that Croatia has a second try to establish some kind of aggregation system, but unfortunately I'm not so much optimistic about the success of this project because of the very simple reason. So when you build such a complex system, if you just take a look and draw some expectation from Europeana, and if we learn something from Europeana, so maybe 20 years ago, Europeana was trying also to establish a global system that will cover all of the functionalities, all of the needs that institutions might need when building not just digital collections, because as Eva said, digital collections are not the primary aim and the final aim of the digitization, but it is just a beginning. So so if Europeana didn't succeed to overarch all of the requirements, I'm pretty sure that Croatian e-Kultura will also not cover all of these requirements. But I would rather say that it can be very important to understand that you have to be involved in this kind of development, and you need to track all of the pros and cons, what happens 10 or 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can bring some new ideas, because e-Kultura is not new idea. E-Kultura is just reusage of the components that
Mm-hmm.
are already
existing, yeah,
existing and open access.
I think I follow you with this because I think this rereading the policies that will result on this type of infrastructure that we really need, like bottom-up advocating this type of need, should just involve many more participants than only few representative of our pillar institutions. But Benedikt, Eva, as Benedikt, Eva, do you have maybe some comments more on this? I mean, you are in position to maybe push to advocate like a short term. In short term, to advocate usage of IIIF. Can you maybe give us a bit of?
From the academic standpoint of view, or educational academic
Mm-hmm,
standpoint
mm-hmm.
of view, I think these standards are available, they're well defined, they're ready to be taught to students, and many
Mm-hmm.
of the forthcoming students are actually quite happy, eager to know them. And the problem is, I mean, one thing is to learn something as an example, and
Mm-hmm.
the other point is to implement it somewhere. So this is the problem where, you know, Christian and Eva can maybe also say something. Goran maybe better has to say something, but in our little projects we try to kind of incorporate some of the features that in the long run will have some meaning to this whole structure, to the whole system, and eventually it will come. The problem is that on the top levels of execution of these projects, there is no vision, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no vision of the need for the unification of this digital area. So that seems to be the problem that kind of lingers on, and I think that the one of the reasons why no one is actually willing to hear what we are saying, or is reluctant to hear, is because this other project or this other approach gives possibilities of fragmentation of money, or the projects can be somehow you can invest in those projects easily, and maybe they cost a little bit less, but these fragments actually turn out to be a greater cost for the whole society, as they would be when thinking as a kind of group of interoperability standards implemented on a large infrastructure scale, which actually Christian mentioned in his lecture. So I think we are kind of small fish in the sea, but when we kind of swim in the same direction, maybe someone will, you know, see.
Or maybe,
yes.
if I can be straightforward, maybe you can shift your projects towards the startups. But
well, that's the other.
No.
But this anticipation of the energy and the goal that we, or role that we have in society. I mean, if you're educational guy, would you like to go really in the, you know, public sphere and compete with all these, great, not to mention companies and stuff. It's hard, and yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but I think that IIIF community globally now that you are also witnessing, it's huge. It's global. I mean, it's spreading. It's in continuous development. So I think Vlatka wants something to add to this.
To get in your words, I just wanted to say that the problem with these standards, as well as any other standards for using of technology or for metadata for everything, is they are not pre-required where you propose the projects. So maybe when you propose the projects, at least in public funding, it will be required that if you make some databases or digitization or use technology, that you do use some standard which are interoperability, which will guarantee the operability, connection, use, cooperation, networking, and things like that. So we don't have such criteria for everything. So you have various products in these digitization projects that are founded in Croatia.
Yeah, but Vlatka, if I can add, as the community of partners and institutions combined under the umbrella of Time Machine and ICARUS and Europeana partners and consortiums like this, that I especially, I think that these are the platforms where we can join our interest in this and advocate it furtherly. So I think this type of discussion should be.
When you want to propose project for Europeana or for I don't know, for Horizon or for Time Machine, for everything, then it's supposed that you will use some standards because it's precondition. But other of this, when you don't have such criteria for preparing, I don't know, database or some else, then you will skip this part. Yeah. As you see from the current situation.
One of my questions in the introduction was, are we prepared for what's expected from us in the next couple of years? I think no. But thank you for this panel. I mean, we have done our 90 minutes scheduled time, so we can really discuss it through the channels throughout the conference. Thank you, Glenn, for hosting this session for us, and I wish you all a good and very, very, very hot day in Zagreb and other parts of Croatia. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
So thank you.
Super.